Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat. You know, our fans really deserve better. We really should be dedicating this 100% to what the fans want. Like, there's no excuse for being delayed. 2 minutes and 32 seconds when there's fans out there who expect something of us. We're here for them, not us. This is all about the fans.
It is, and that is tonight's topic. Or
What?
tonight's second topic. Nice. I like that the Dune shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy the Dune movie very much. I'm a very big fan of the Dune book. I was going to say books, but I'm not a big fan of all the books. I feel like Herbert got progressively worse with every book until it got, what the hell are you writing? Thank God you stopped. Oh no, why is your son picking it up and doing it now?
Well, I have read 0 of the books, and I have seen half of the first movie. But from what I've heard, the second
When you
book,
say first movie, what year are you talking?
I'm talking about the first of the new series.
So 2020, not 1984.
Right.
Because when I hear first movie, I'm in 1984. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm talking about Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
But what I heard was, I haven't seen a lot of it. So what I've heard is that he wrote the first book. People didn't get the point about Paul Atreides. Am I saying that right? Paul Atreides?
You are correct. As far as I know, you are correct. That is how it is usually done in the movies. So I would say correct.
And then, so he wrote the second one, which is Dune Messiah, to kind of address the issue that he didn't think Paul Atreides was a hero, which is kind of the opposite of fan service. He was like, "Oh no, you got this wrong.
You didn't get it. Let me set you straight."
So I wonder, is that why you wore the shirt?
No, I wore the shirt because it keeps me nice and toasty warm. It's a shirt.
Yeah. Okay. I just was wondering.
Show my nipples on Facebook and get banned. Because
I think that even though you said you didn't, you think they get progressively worse. The book,
not necessarily the second book. First book is great. Second book is very good. Maybe it's a little less subtle. That's why it's not as good but with a reason.
People didn't get the subtle.
The third book, he forgot what he wrote in the first one, because things that were distinctly said, this is how it works completely differently. Like things work are completely different in the third book than they were. Like he starts, and maybe it's in part in the second too. Like he may have decided, oh, that was too, they didn't get that, so I'm redefining how it works. Because in the books, when a Bene Gesserit drinks the water of life, or goes through another similar process, because they don't have to do the water of life if they're not on Arrakis. There's other poisons they can use. They get a mind dump from the person who's doing the ritual with them, the other Reverend Mother, as they become a Reverend Mother. But she had a mind dump for the person before her, and the person before her. So you're getting a lineage of those ever since that process started, of the mind dumps going back to those women. In a later book, I don't know if it was the second or the third, it redefines it to every one of your ancestors, not the people in the lineage. Like it was clearly this woman and the memories that she had and the memories that she had. And then in the later book, it's, oh, I hear my grandfather's voice in my head. He wasn't part of the thing. Like that's not how it worked in the first book. And so he like things that either maybe he wanted to make it more obvious, like that was confusing, but he retconned it. But like a lot of things just get retconned in it, which is very confusing in the books. But they're still really good.
Good.
But the first is the best. And talking about fan service and fan blindness, these new movies, the director, as you must do, leaves a lot out. And he leaves a lot of stuff out that fans like me of the books go, that would have been 10 seconds to have that in. You could have had that in. It would have made so much more full. And there's stuff where he changes characters' motivations and personalities hugely. But he does it in a way that I and most fans that I've seen, some people are very upset that it's different, but most fans I've seen are like, oh, I wish that had been in it. But okay, it was still great without it. Like they didn't need to have it. And the changes, well, those were drastic changes. but man, did he do them well. And like in this modern world, modern sophistication of audiences, those are logical changes. To be fair, most men in the 50s didn't write very well fleshed out female characters. So making the female characters much stronger and realistic and having more human reactions was way different in the book, but really refreshing and good. Like I really like the new version of Jessica and Chani more than the book version, and it's one of my favorite books. So,
Awesome.
so I don't know where that
So
puts me in your two realms of what are we discussing again today?
fan service and fan blind, and when it leads to fan blindness. Now, this is Alex's topic that he
Oh,
threw into the thing. So I don't want to misrepresent what he was saying, but him and I talked about it a little bit at work today. So I had taken it one way, and he meant it in a different way, and part of that
hmm.
was
Hmm.
I
So
think you're
my
close.
so let me see what my guess is because again I wasn't in that conversation. Fan service is pandering potentially, like at the worst version, it would be pandering to your audience, like trying to write what your audience wants to see
Hmm.
or hear or whatever. And fan blindness is the artist that I like did it, therefore it is good, regardless of what the objective quality or the majority interpretation of the quality would be.
That's not how he explained it to
Okay,
me. So
I'm guessing. I'm not saying that's right. I was just
yeah.
trying to guess from the terms
So
to make them opposites.
his wording on it was that it's so when let's use Star Wars as an example because I think Star Wars is
Star
a great
Wars, nothing but Star Wars. I got mine. Did you get yours? Get it today. Sorry,
that's okay. I enjoy Bill Murray, so
I know
um,
it's forever in my head. I was like 10 when he sang that, and it's always in my head.
but Star Wars is a great fandom to use as an example for a lot of things. But like I think the point being is that when we give too much fan service and then we set the expectation for the fans to kind of get stuck in their ways about things. Um, Now, so I think that his point wasn't that fan service is necessarily a bad thing, but like if like I think when you look at I had this argument when Return of the not when Return of the Jedi because I was not born yet when Return of the Jedi came out. When the Last Jedi came out, a lot of my friends online on Facebook from high school had a lot of people had huge problems with the Last Jedi. And one of the problems that I kept hearing from people, which made zero sense to me, was it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It's so different it doesn't feel like Star
Really, because the
Wars.
complaint I heard was they just took the New Hope and changed the character names.
That's for
Like,
that's Force Awakens.
oh, Force Awakens. Okay, oh, okay,
So
I get you.
Last Jedi is the other one, this the middle of that trilogy.
Oh,
And so people kept saying,
well, a
they
different director took over and he went a completely different direction than the previous
right.
movie. Okay,
Right. And I said, okay, it's hard for my generation to understand because we didn't see Star Wars as they were released. So you may relate to what I'm about to say even better than my friends did when I was saying this, but if you watched Star Wars when it came out and then 3 years later went and saw Empire Strikes Back, that's a drastically different movie than Star Wars. It feels like they've added lore and like it feels like if you watch those two movies separately, I could see not connecting them other than the fact that the characters are the same. Like they feel so disconnected. Then Return of the Jedi, I think, as much as Return of the Jedi has its flaws, does kind of meld the two together to me, and it creates one cohesive trilogy. And I kept saying we need to see what happens with the third movie in the franchise, which did not do it.
yeah.
The third movie in the franchise
I mean,
was the
yeah,
fucking
you're
worst.
giving him a chance, but they didn't
But
pull it together.
this was
I mean, I
before.
actually like all three of those movies, but they don't form a cohesive trilogy. They just felt like three movies that I liked
Right?
in
Yeah,
different ways.
I think you're giving it more credit than it deserves, but
I didn't love them.
oh no, I think the worst. The
Like
third one was
I love 4, 5, and 6. I enjoyed parts of Phantom Menace. I really liked uh, uh, Clone Wars and Return of the Sith. Like those are really good. Not as good as the original Star Wars, which I saw as a child as you were meant to see them. So it's hard for me to separate that. Is a big thing. Like to your point, I saw Star Wars at 10 years old when it came out, And I was a 10-year-old, and it was a 10-year-old's movie. It was perfect for me. Empire, I was 13. And suddenly it had some nuance and some darkness, and the things that I was feeling going through puberty were in that movie. And then in high school, it all came together in Return of the Jedi, which was a perfect movie. Yeah, like I felt like they were
Yeah,
written for me at my ages, those three movies. So I think that affects them also.
yeah,
So I felt like the last three were, I enjoyed different parts of them for different reasons and different ways. Kind of like I like Phantom Menace, some parts of it and some parts I'm not so thrilled with, whatever. But I didn't
I
bring very much expectation to them. I don't have a, it should have been this. It was just, oh, that just didn't work. I didn't enjoy that part. Like, it's not because it's wrong,
right,
and it's not because it's not Star Wars. Because a lot of things, like people are upset with Luke, like going off to be a hermit, living by himself and giving up, like his two Jedi masters did. Like, as far as he knows, they may have had reasons. We'll
yeah,
find out in the Obi-Wan TV show, right? They were watching over him, but to him, that's what Jedi's do when something bad happens. They become hermits and go live off and stop using the Force. That's what Ben
yeah,
and Yoda did. Why would he behave any different?
yeah. I have. I mean, I know that even Mark Hamill has come out and kind of shit on it, but I'm like, that doesn't. That's not the problem for me with that. I mean, the movie's not perfect. I have issues with that movie, but like the point that people kept saying like it doesn't feel like Star Wars, and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, it's just so different from the first of the trilogy, and I'm like, I mean, Empire is so drastically different. They're like, no, they always feel like a cohesive unit. I'm like, because you saw them knowing they were a like they were a one piece. But like, if you saw it and then waited 3 years and saw the next one, you'd be like, and then you're like, what the fuck is Vader
I
his
think the
dad? Like,
I think the problem that my generation had with the prequels is they don't feel like Star Wars to us. They're about political intrigue and and business, and then two best friends who grow apart. Like, it's got great themes, but they're not the themes that were in the first three movies. And if you go in with expectations
yeah,
of it needs to be what I want it to be, it's hard for any director to guess what you want it to be personally and
oh
make
yeah,
that movie.
yep, I agree. So that's what the topic as Alex had imagined it.
And
So
then
I would
fan
do.
blindness is what part of it?
So fan blindness is when we get into that like, no, 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 this is what it has to be. Give me the fan
Okay.
service. That is not that is not Star Wars. This is Star
Okay.
Wars.
So I was thinking blindness is blindness to its faults, and like saying every episode of Doctor Who is perfect because it's Doctor Who and I'm a fan. And no matter how bad of an episode it is by any other objective thing, I'm going to find the few good things about it and say it was great because I have to, because I'm a fan. Like, your team is the best team even when they're in last place. You know, like there's always a reason that they're the best team. You have to be, and then
It's
so
easy
at
for
some
you to
point
say this week. Easy for you to say this week.
all my teams. Yankees are undefeated, and the
Oh, are they?
Wolfpack and the men Wolfpack and women Wolfpack are both going into Final Four, which, as of this record, has not happened yet. We are days away from the Final Four games, but both teams are in the Final Four, and the Yankees have won. They swept the Astros, and I think they played Arizona yesterday and beat Arizona yesterday. Like, they're 5 games in a row.
Nice. I'm not a.
Boston's in last place. I'm just saying.
Are they?
Yeah, yeah. Yankees are in first place. Boston's last in the
Sunday, my father-in-law was saying that they're looking pretty good this season, but it's only 5 games in, right?
Yeah,
Five or
yeah,
six games in.
we're 5-0. They were like 3-2. So
Oh, okay.
they weren't, like, it's early to be anywhere. It doesn't mean anything this early, but it still feels good.
Yeah. Anyway, anyway.
Like I was telling people at work, my background would be Yankees, except for the fact that it's Wolfpack.
So, I yesterday when I was talking to Sarah and Logan about this being our topic for
Oh,
this
that's why you
evening.
say smart things. Logan told you what to say.
Yeah, he preps me on every episode. He's actually in the other. I have an earpiece under this, and he's going, "No, Dad, don't say that. That's dumb." Um, anyway, so I was saying something, and Sarah was like, "I don't get what the topic is," so I started to explain it, and I said something about thinking it was toxic fandom, is what we were talking about at
Combine
first,
the topics.
and and Logan goes, and I said something, like I said, Star Wars fans are a great example, and Logan goes, "You're a Star Wars fan." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "But you don't like Star Wars fans?" I'm like, I said, and I said, I looked at him and I said, "Star Wars fans are like Christians. There's plenty of good ones, but the ones that suck are so vocal and that you just don't want to associate with any of them."
It's kind of like I would never call myself a gamer, no matter how many video games I play, because I don't want to be a gamer.
Yeah, yeah. There's
I don't
just
want to belong
certain,
to any club that would have me as a member.
yeah. Um, but I said that, and he was like, "Oh, okay," and he like got it. But I feel like I, toxic fandom would, if we do that as its own episode at some point, I am maybe the most perfect person to talk about toxic fandom, because I am a Star Wars fan who was raised Irish Catholic in Massachusetts by Republicans. So
I think I outgrew my toxic fandom. I used to have things where
oh,
I
I'm
was
not saying I
upset with
am.
things that followed toxic. I used to have expectations,
Yeah,
and it was wrong if it didn't meet my expectations.
yeah,
And enough times I was pleasantly surprised that something that did not meet my expectations was still so good that it broke me of it. You know what the moment was? You know what it was? You know what it was? Which is actually is has reared its handsome head back recently. Michael Keaton as Batman.
yeah,
When Michael Keaton was announced as Batman, I'm like, that little guy? I mean, I could step on him. How the hell is he Batman? He's not a 6'4" bodybuilder. That's ridiculous. And then he was great as Batman. And he was even better as Batman in the crappy movie The Flash, and even better as Batman at the
at the
Oscars this week.
Oscars. Yeah,
But
I
but like that was one of the things that broke me of my I have expectations that must be met instead of being like, you know what? Let me go in there and see. Let me unfold my arms and entertain me. Let me, and I will be have a second layer of satisfaction when it does match my expectations, but not a negative when it doesn't match my expectations. When it's something new and different, unless it sucks, but it doesn't suck because it's different. Like that's not part of it. It's not. It was a bad change. It was just a good or bad moment,
yeah,
regardless of whether it was faithful or not.
I think that if you look, so to go into my Batman moment was Heath Ledger as the Joker. So I grew up and on
That's funny. Your Batman moment was the Joker. Yeah, interesting.
yeah, it was 10 Things I Hate About You. I liked that movie a lot, and I liked Heath Ledger and a lot of, Knight's Tale and stuff. And then and they announced him as the Joker, and I was like, that guy's gonna be the Joker, and I just couldn't see it. And I don't think I was ever like outwardly toxic. I just was like, I don't get it. And then I, to this day, of the five Jokers, we'll count Cesar Romero. Of the five live action
We'll count
Jokers,
Caesar Romero. We'll count.
well, it's
He
not
is
a
the
movie.
godfather of the Caesar Romero. 1966 Batman movie. He was in the
Okay,
movies.
yeah. Anyway, uh,
He
yes,
may
okay.
not have shaved his mustache. He just covered it with white grease paint, but he was the Joker.
Anyway, of the five live action Jokers, uh, live action big screen Jokers, because I know there's been a couple of TV show ones. Uh, I think he's the best, and I loved Jack Nicholson. I when I
Caesar Romero was the best. Is that we're in
he
agreement there?
Heath Ledger is
Oh,
is the best, and I think, like, because I really like Jack Nicholson. I remember when they started talking about making another Batman movie with the Joker. I actually was like all in on Steve Buscemi, which nobody was
well,
talking
he
about.
looks like the man who laughs, doesn't he?
He has some
Yeah, yeah,
moments
yeah, yeah.
where I think he would have been great, but then they announced Heath Ledger, and I'm like, but he's pretty, but
Yeah.
he's pretty, and then then the movie comes out, and you're like, holy fuck, this movie's
He's good. Yeah.
amazing. This is
This is an
this
Oscar-winning performance. Yeah.
yeah, like, even if he didn't die, I think he would have won that Oscar. Like, and
That was a brilliant performance. Yeah.
I don't know that I would say that about many of posthumous. Like, I don't know that you can comfortably say that about many posthumous performances like that, um, but he was amazing. And then you look at Jared Leto, and I don't think Jared Leto's take on it was like, I don't like, I didn't look at it and go, oh my god, what the
Here's
fuck.
my
I was
hot
just like,
take.
it
I
didn't.
enjoyed Jared Leto's Joker, and I thought the chemistry between him and Margot Robbie was really, really solid. I
Okay.
totally enjoyed it.
I just thought, like,
I
I
didn't
don't
think it
love
was a
this.
great movie overall, but
Yeah,
but each of those characters was. I thought her character was phenomenal and carried his character so that the way their relationship worked made him work for me. Like
I
if she wasn't in it, if it was just his Joker without the love for her parts, maybe I
yeah.
wouldn't have liked it as much. But the way He was her boyfriend. Worked for me.
I loved her. I think that his laugh might be my favorite Joker laugh.
It
Like, I actually think that might be the best laugh. But I didn't
was
love.
so pained. I loved it.
I didn't love it over. I didn't love the performance overall. But I wasn't, like you said. It's not bad because it's different. It's just bad because it didn't click for me, or I
I
just
think
don't like it because it didn't
it
click.
didn't fit the rest of the movie. And maybe if more of it was in it, like I know there's a tons of unshown footage.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was more of the Joker and Harley's movie with the just cut around it, it would have been better. I think the worst thing to me was the fact that it when it cut to his scenes, it was a different movie than the rest of the movie. It was so different in tone.
Yep. And
But
then
the moment, here's the moment for me. Here's the Oscar-winning moment for Jared Leto for me, or for the writing of it, or direction. I don't know who gets it, but for the scene, the scene-winning moment when he tosses Harley into the chemical pit. And he laughs about it and starts to turn and then gets this look in his face of, oh shit, I love her. I have to jump after her. And maybe it's in the extended version, not in the theatrical. It maybe just be in the extended. I'm not sure. But when he drops his jacket and dives in after her, the moment of realization that he's not just an abusive person to be abusive, he's an abusive boyfriend who loves her. Yeah, that was the Joker Harley moment for me. He totally does love her, even though he's a horrible abusive freak.
yeah. And then you get the Joaquin Phoenix movie, and the performance was great, and I did not give a shit about that movie. That's how I felt about it. I remember watching it. I remember seeing the trailer and being like, I don't really care about this. And then I went and saw the movie, and I was like, the performance was very good. Like, I'm not upset that he won Best Actor. And there's a lot of
I
movies
just
like
think it's
that.
great that Joker won Best Supporting and Joker won Best Actor. Of all the
Yeah,
characters in the universe, the Joker has won 2 Oscars.
yeah. Basically, the only comic book characters to win, right?
I am I can neither confirm nor deny.
Uh,
I
there
can't think of
was
another one off the top of my head.
Al Pacino was nominated.
Angela Bassett didn't win, right?
Right, she did not. Al Pacino was nominated for Dick Tracy.
Oh, that was he was amazing in that.
Was he?
Again, movie wasn't great, but he was amazing in it. Pacino was amazing.
It's been so long since I've seen it. I was a kid when I saw it,
Yeah,
so I don't
the
remember.
end of the movie where he's like trying to escape and he's mumbling to himself. It every time it draws me in 100%.
Hmm.
So I
And
felt
I
like
can't.
the Joker. I didn't feel like it was a movie. I felt like it was a really cool 90-minute or 2 hour whatever character study. Like it was an
Yeah,
exercise in show me how you would develop the Joker character. And it was like a improvised exercise on what is the Joker more than it was a beginning, middle, end movie about the Joker.
yeah. I have a theory about certain movies and where I think they have one element that is so strong
The Fifth
that
Element.
people convince themselves that that movie is good despite it only having one good element. I think that I mean, I don't think anything about the Joker's bad, but I think that nothing else really is that good
I
about
said
it.
it
It's
was a
just
character
as
study. It wasn't a
yeah,
movie. Like it shouldn't have won Best Oscar. Him winning Best Oscars, Best
yeah,
Performance is believable. It shouldn't win Best Movie because it wasn't the best movie. It was a best character study.
yeah. I think American History X is like people are like, oh, that's a great movie. I'm like, no, Edward Norton has a great
Yeah.
performance.
I
Like,
mean, it might be that way for Kill and Kill Again, which I mean, I know we've talked about as one of the best movies ever made. Maybe I'm blinded by some of the performances are so amazing and so believable, and the characters sound like they're actually speaking words that potentially a human could speak in that order. Those words, even though no one ever has before or since.
yeah. So let's get back to the topic of
Once again, 2 weeks in a row. Let me tell you guys, find Kill and Kill Again and watch it. I have it on DVD. Come to my house, whoever's listening. I'll lend it to you. It's worth watching. Don't watch Kill
so
or Be Killed. Don't. This is one where the sequel's better than the original.
much like Dune, as we've already established. Anyway, I want to talk about
Dune
fan
doesn't have
cert.
a sequel. I mean, I think the new movie is 2020, 2024. It's part one, part two. It's not a sequel. It's the second part of the chapter of the story. It wasn't
Yeah,
like to me a sequel is made a movie. It was really good. Let's make another one with the same characters with well, if it's 2 chapters of the same story, like Ghostbusters sequels, Godfather, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. one story. Godfather 3, shitty sequel.
Godfather 3 is
That's
not
to me.
shitty. Godfather 3 is like if you have a Ferrari and you have a Lamborghini and then you have like a Honda
Then you let
CRV. Honda CRV is a good car. But yeah, it doesn't look that special next to a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. Right? Is that a fair statement?
that's a fair statement,
If I if I made The
unless Sofia
Godfather 3,
Coppola is driving that CRV, then blow it up.
if I went out right now and filmed The Godfather 3 with it, Godfather 3 doesn't exist in reality, and I
I
go
know it
film
doesn't.
Godfather
I agree.
3, I go film it and make it exactly as that movie is, and and show it and showed it around, people would be like, "You made this, Mike? This is fucking awesome. You made this seriously?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I made this." But it's Francis Ford Coppola. It follows the two greatest films ever made, and that sets expectations. If you take Eminem's worst album and you said Michael Cole puts out this album, you'd be like, "Jesus fucking Christ." But Eminem, who is an amazing rapper, it doesn't live up to his standard. So sometimes we have to take that into consideration too.
I will counter with Mr. Tanner.
I don't know what that
That's all I'm going
means.
to say. Mr. Tanner.
Danny Tanner?
No, Mr. Tanner was a cleaner from a town in the Midwest. And of all the cleaning shops in town, he had made his the best. But he also was a baritone who sang while folding clothes. He practiced scales while pressing tails, and he sang in local shows. So it's a Harry Chapin song, and it's about this guy who's a cleaner who sings well, and he sings in all these local talent shows and stuff. And everybody gets on him to try music out full time. Like he's like, "You're so good, you're so good, you need to go." So he saves up all his money. He gets an agent. He rents Town Hall in Manhattan. They advertise the hell out of it. All of his savings go into advertising it. He performs. He does a show. He sings his heart out, his best, and the review is Mr. Tanner of Canton, Ohio, performed at Town Hall tonight. He came well prepared, but his performance was not up to contemporary professional standards. Full-time consideration of another endeavor should be considered. And then he never sang again, because even though when it was him singing, it was great to everybody as an amateur singing. When he tried to say this is a professional who did this, it wasn't great.
Okay. But I
If it
think
was a
if you
home movie, if it was your home porn, even with Sophia in it, fine. But once you say that's a professional movie and charge me $15 and popcorn, no.
I don't think it's just that it would be me. I think it's that you have to take either example, Godfather 3 or the worst Eminem album, and you say, give this to any other rapper or give this to any other filmmaker and don't make it a sequel to The Godfathers, just as it is.
If
It's
only
just
they
a
had.
And if they did that, people would be like, "That did you see that movie? That was a great movie," and it would do well. It would not do to the standard, but I think it would hold up in a way that you wouldn't. But the expectation was there that we have, like I said, CRV next to a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. See, I have a
Yeah.
CRV and I love my car's great, but
So
it's not a Ferrari. And
so so where I say that I'm willing to judge a movie on its merits and not hold it up, except when it's so non-deserving of the name that it has. And like as you said, if they
sure,
were released under a different name, when you say I'm going to call this the other thing, so
yeah,
people go see it, that's when I'm like,
yeah.
that's not appropriate. You could have said inspired by, you could have
Well,
said
and
based
Coppola,
on, but there are things where they're not part. They shouldn't be called the thing.
yeah, Coppola wanted it to be
Like
called the Death.
anything that Zack Snyder does should not be named after the franchise he ripped off. He sh- he should do it like he
Other
did
than the Watchmen,
even the Watchmen. I mean, the Watchmen. The things he screws up about it are more subtle because it does end up being a good movie, but he misses
anyway,
the entire point of the Watchmen. Like he gets the entire theme wrong. He made it look right, and the plot was really similar, but the theme of the movie was completely. He made the bad guy a hero in like three different places. He made bad guys heroes.
yeah.
He didn't understand the Watchmen.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Um,
Three Musketeers.
the candy bar or the novel?
The never-ending series of movies based on the novel. I love the book, The Three Musketeers. Love it, love it, love it. And it's rare that any movie made about it is even close to the story of the book. There's usually a couple of scenes like the book, and then they make up a movie,
Yeah.
make up characters, make up motivations. And it is one of the things where I love the fact that I know the book, I've read it a dozen times, and when I watch a movie like the Disney version, and the only thing that's right is the character names, and I'm like, I could watch this movie 100 times though. It's so enjoyable. Like I don't
Mhm.
care that it's completely wrong. Like because the quality overcomes that for me completely.
So I agree with you, and I was actually going to bring up not the Three Musketeers specifically. I was going to bring up we had
A
talked
different candy
earlier.
bar.
We had talked earlier about Stanley Kubrick, and you look at and I'm reading The Shining, so I don't mean The Shining, but if you look at almost every one of his books, almost every one of his movies after Lolita on is based on a book. Actually, I forget, was Lolita first or was Doctor Strangelove? Either way,
I don't know.
both movies on, all based on a book. Doctor Strangelove is based on like a warning manual as to what is going to happen in the event of a nuclear Armageddon, and he decides to take that and turn it into Doctor Strangelove, which I think is one of the great farces of all time, or satire. It's somewhere in between.
I'll take either one.
Yeah. And then you take a look at I know that like people don't love what he did with The Shining, and The Shining
Stephen
is
King certainly didn't love it.
Stephen King didn't, and I think that it's very different. But you know I watched The Shining, and I'm only reading The Shining now. I watched The Shining 20 years ago for the first time, and The Shining stands on its own pretty well. And then when you read the book, you're like, oh, this is pretty fucking different. Um, but like all of his movies basically were an adaptation that he just went and did his own thing with some basic element of it. And I have no problem with that as long as you understand that's what it is. And I think, and I could be wrong on this, maybe it was another point, but I think the point where we got to the every adaptation has to be literal and as exact as possible is Harry Potter. And I think that there's a lot of reason why
So
Harry.
one of the movies was.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
I, th-
I agree
I
with you. I'm
the
not saying you're wrong.
yeah,
Like the first one was, and it set the expectation of that's what it should be for those
right.
fans.
And I think that Harry Potter makes there is some structural things that I think you can't change that as much and keep within the spirit of it. The same way that you can with other books. I think Harry Potter, like you need to have. You could do other stories, like obviously, like they had the Fantastic Beasts series. You can do other things, but to do the Harry Potter stories, you kind of do have to stick within that context somewhat.
Especially the way they were doing it time-wise. Like if you did them
Mm-hmm.
today, you could take more liberty. But since the books were still coming out when the movies were coming out, and even though she was involved, people did not know, the movie makers didn't necessarily know where book 7 was going to go.
Right.
So if you change anything too drastically in movie 3 or 4, you may be so far off that you can no longer get there.
Yeah. And I think that that's where fans started to get the expectation, though, that we're going to get true as good as word for word a direct copy as possible of a book that we loved. And some of it, like even though Harry Potter doesn't really do that, like we don't they never explain the Marauders map, which, like you said with the Dune thing, the Marauders map would take them 3 minutes at most to explain, and then we get a bunch of references to the explanation that we never saw the explanation of. But like, so there
I said
are
only
like,
because I think only book 1 I think was really really faithful because it's the shortest book.
yeah,
You can get
yeah,
90% of it in. Once the
right,
books got longer, you just can't.
right. But we got that expectation, and then you go into, uh, I don't, I didn't see any of the Twilights beyond the first one, but so I don't know if this falls into it. But then you get into,
I saw like every
was
episode growing up.
okay, Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that's what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I was talking about Twilight. the vampires. Um,
Blade?
no, Blade, Blade.
That's the vampires, right? The guy kills the
Yeah,
vampires.
I hate it when motherfuckers try to skate uphill. Uh, what a stupid line.
And
Uh,
yet you will quote it until you die.
it is, yeah, it's one of those. No, the other book series that I think got really weird about how specifically they wanted it to be accurate is Hunger Games, to the point where some of the shit was just in their heads, like it was head canon.
Right, things that were accurate they complained about, and
Right.
it's like she was tweeting, "No, this is the description in the book."
Yeah. And so I think we got into that for a while, and I have not read any of the 50 Shades books, but I saw the first movie because Sarah read the books, and the first movie I watched it with Sarah, and I was like, this is my take on the movie. And Sarah, because Sarah was not thrilled with the movie because she had read the books, and I was like, my take on the movie is they should have changed the dialogue. And she said, no, the dialogue's exactly as it is in the book. I'm like, but it was bad in the book
Right, just
then.
because it like I once in a writing class ripped apart somebody's short story, and he was like, "But it's true," and I was like, "That doesn't make it a good story."
Hmm.
And that's like just because it was
Yeah,
a good book, whether it was or wasn't, doesn't mean it translates. The dialogue translates
yeah.
to the screen.
Well, and that's where I think because the writer of that book was so bad as a writer, they the dialogue was the only thing that you had. Like, I mean, there were plot points I guess they had to follow, but the world wasn't visual. Like, there was not described much, and there was not much of a visual language to the book. So if you watch that first movie, the filmmaker, I can't remember her name, but she did a really good job with the visual language. um and not just cinematography, but also like when they first have sex for the first time, it pans up and there's a painting of water crashing on rocks, and so there's these visual cues, and I'm like, this director was a capable director who could do a good job with the stuff that you gave her the freedom to do, but because they wanted to keep the dialogue the same, you had like the dialogue's terrible. It's like it's George Lucas dialogue with George Lucas visuals. But like, but you because you made her stick within the script, like dialogue wise, you have some atrocious. The number one example is, and I will never get over this, is at one point they're in some kind of argument, and Christian Grey is his name Christian Grey? I think it's Christian. I
I
don't
have
know.
not read a
Grey.
page or seen a moment of the movie.
The guy says to the girl, the woman, uh, I'm just 50 shades of fucked up. And I'm like, none of that makes sense. And Sarah's like, what do you mean? And I was like, first of all, just because his last name is Gray, they haven't established that like 50 Shades of Grey is the name of the book. Like they haven't established that you know anything about the color gray and at all. Like so like the reference to 50 Shades of Grey doesn't make sense for him to say out loud, within the movie. It would be it's like whenever they do it, I'm trying to think of, I feel like cartoons like Family Guy and The
I know
Simpsons
they
and
said the
stuff,
name. It said the name.
but sometimes they'll be like showing like I love when they say the name and it'll be like, and that's why it's the curious case of Benjamin Button, and you're like, what? That didn't make any sense within the movie. And so like 50 Shades of Fucked Up is that same thing, and it's delivered poorly, which I don't think the actor is bad. I think from what I've seen, he's good in other stuff. I haven't seen Dakota Fanning in anything. I've seen her in like little stuff before I knew who she was. Like she's Jason Segel's girlfriend in um, the 5 Year Engagement or something. But otherwise, and she was just like supposed to be annoying. So I don't know. I can't judge her. I don't acting, but I've heard that they're both good actors. So it's not that's the problem. It's you got stuck
And
with someone who wrote a book on their BlackBerry, and
the
you
lack
you
of
couldn't
vampires,
change
I think, was the problem.
partly, but also I think the writer's bad. Like it's fan fiction, and it was not a
Yeah.
good. It was not well
It
written.
wasn't good fan fiction, but
Right.
it was acceptable sex. It was
Yeah.
titillating and acceptable to mainstream audiences.
This is this
So
is
I was going to say, did you ever read the books or watch the TV series Dexter?
I watched the TV series.
So the first season of Dexter is 75, let's say, to give it a number, percent faithful to the book, up until the end, where different characters live and die in the TV series and the book, which
Mhm.
means the second season of the TV series has people alive in it who are dead in the book. The book, so the stories, like, only book one and season one match up at all. Everything else is almost completely different. Some big ticket things like getting married and stuff like that. Like some of it, they bring some elements back, but not the plot. Just some story elements that this happens in their lives.
Yeah,
It was funny because it was very much a, hey, if you like this, here's a different story how it could have gone. Like, but maybe it could have ended this way.
yeah. When I started watching the show, it was already 4 or 5 seasons in at least, and Sarah and I started watching, and I posted on Facebook. Oh, I'm watching Dexter. Has anybody read the books? Are they any good? Are they any good? And one person responded, "They're fucking terrible. The show is so much better." And this is a big reader. This guy was a big reader, or actually, woman now. But
I would say she is right and wrong. The I think it was the second book that was fucking terrible, and the other one. So if you read the first book, you go, I really like this, and it's like that TV show I'm watching. And then I think it may have been the third, but I think it was the second. The writer. Here's one of the things that should have been a different title and not been a sequel, because it, so in the book and and the show, he often metaphorically refers to my dark passenger, like, which is his desire to kill.
mhm.
In one of the books, it's either the second or third, again, I'm not 100% sure which one, they decide, oh no, he's possessed. All serial killers are possessed. The dark passenger is literally a demon in him. And when you go through a traumatic event, that allows a demon in. And the demon can sense other demons, so he can find other serial killers because the demon can sense the other. And then the next book, they forgot that ever happened. Like he realized, like that was really like that would have made a very interesting, different series of books in which, in this universe, serial killers are possessed. It shouldn't have been the sequel to Dexter. And then he went back to it. So if you read that one and stopped, you say these books suck because I got to that one and I stopped because it sucked. But then like by the next book, it was like that was never mentioned again. Like the things that happened in the book happened plot wise to their lives, but none of the details happen. Never again is there a demon in his body.
Well, not that way.
Yeah. No, he's got
Um,
someone in his body, but he's not possessed.
um, so, do we want to talk about fandom that is not maybe what we think of as fandom, but like is absolutely fandom?
Yeah, so like I really, when I was young, I thought if you were rich, then women in like feather outfits with giant fans would stand over you and like feed you grapes and fan you. I thought that's something that happens.
No, I'm talking about.
Different fandom?
Well, I think like American Christianity, for example, is a weird mix of it's not necessarily a religion anymore in some ways, and it's not necessarily a political thing. It's all this weird thing that is closer to a fandom in a lot of ways. So,
I think politics in general, yeah, too. Like
well, yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of, if you're a member of one party or the other, there's a lot of my party did it, so it's right. Now we'll find a way to justify it because it's my party,
yeah,
versus being able to be critical of your party or the party you side more with.
sure. But I also think
But
like yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I
But yeah, I
also
think
think
religion
though
works the same way. There's like,
you look
I
at
mean, there are people, there's a religion, oh God, I forget what it's called, but it's one where the people in it are famous for raping children. And then the organization itself covers it up instead of punishing the people. Like they move them to other countries so they won't get in trouble for raping children. They defend them. I forget what it's called. But people, ready for this, belong to that religion and give money to it that they know intellectually is going towards moving rapists around, like Optimus Prime and Spike. Remember that? You know
yeah.
that it's that there are people, I forget, it's some small religion, but it's like it's got tons of money too. Like, like the gold taken from Jews during World War II. It's got tons of money, and yet people give it money because it's theirs, and they have to love their religion, even though it is an international rape cabal. I
I
forget which
100
it's called.
I
That's
hun-
because I don't know.
I 100% I agree with what you just said. 100%. No, no caveats. I it was not talking about that when I was thinking of it. I was
Oh,
thinking of less specifically, but so like look at from what I understand of let's say what we consider to be more. I was thinking, if you think about religious, so I'll use Jewish people for an
I know
example.
you use them. I still sore. It's hard for me to sit.
Yeah.
I'm cold by injection.
Nice. If if you think about like
Alex is clipping it.
think about did it say that or no?
No,
Oh,
just assuming.
if you think about religious Jews, but not necessarily like let's talk about Reform Jews.
Let's talk about
But
reform.
like Reform Jews, for example, they go to temple, they
Yeah, good.
or they potentially
Yeah.
they have some kind of relationship with their faith in a way. They pray, maybe they have some kind of general feelings of connection with this thing, and you probably don't hear about it much from them, and you don't see them being like it's it's not
Oh,
the
you
same
do.
thing. You might get a little bit. They may. I mean,
More
Reform
that you
Jews,
hear more about the culture than you would about the temple. Like they
right,
wouldn't talk about their faith because Jews don't have faith. It's not a thing.
right. But
But
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
but yeah,
like
yeah.
there,
It's not as intrusive in the other aspects of their life.
but also like, I, yes, you may see a Jewish person with a Star of David like necklace or something, and you may see a Jewish person with a yarmulke, or I guess there is the like there is there's Orthodox Jews and Hasidic Jews, and they have different clothing different clothing requirements. But like as far as like
Technically, we all have the same clothing requirements that some choose not to follow it. That's one of
sure,
the things that's different about Judaism than Christianity, where in Christianity, the different denominations have different rules. For Judaism, it's more of a, yeah, they're right, but I'm not going to do that. Like that's
okay,
like really what separates the denominations is, yeah, the Orthodox are certainly doing the right thing. Not the culty ones like the Lubavitch,
yeah,
like they're nuts. But Orthodox, conservative, and reformed is three different levels of how much am I going to obey the religion in my daily life is kind of the differentiation between the three.
sure. Okay, so now comparing
So which is just a little weird. I mean, like only
it.
Jews kind of do it that way, where we all go, yeah, the Orthodox are right. The religion says be kosher. I'm just not giving up a bacon cheeseburger for it. That's like the
Well,
difference.
but so anyway, what I was going to get to was that you might see people wearing a little bit of religious garb, but what you're not going to see is I've literally never seen this in my life, a Jewish person wearing anything of ripped Moses with his shirt off, like like you never see like I feel like there is.
I feel like I want to go to Zazzle and design one now.
I feel like there's a level of
Let my people go or else.
I feel like there's a level of and I don't think that it's like I don't think your average person who I would consider like a good reasonable Christian is doing that. I think that but there's a little bit of like what we do with the flag when you're a real America kind of person and you're like, I got a bathing suit that's got the flag on it and I got my Jesus tuxedo t-shirt and like there's a little bit of that doesn't happen with other religions and I grew up with that not really happening with I mean we had ripped Jesus with blood dripping down his hands and
There's
feet,
just statues of him everywhere. Believe that's fine.
yeah, but like yeah, I mean you don't have
But it
statues
wasn't.
of Moses, do you?
No,
Not that I've ever.
there's a commandment about graven
Yeah,
images.
yeah, so like I think that's what I mean when I say a fandom. I think that
Though
they're
I
I'm
will
trying to
say Mark Chagall has some religious artwork that's phenomenal. Google Mark Chagall's artwork if you've never looked at it. It's pretty amazing. but it's not ripped muscles. It's not. It's pain and anguish and the horror of being a Jew done on canvas. He's pretty amazing.
Nice. And I think that there is some good artwork in
Yeah,
I,
religion can have that going for it.
right.
Some really good artwork can be inspired.
But I think that there is a weird fandom side and I think it is almost specifically Christianity. And I don't think that I wouldn't lump those people in with like just religious folk. Like that is a weird other thing. Kind of like the person who wears American flag condoms and has truck nuts and like it's there is a weird sense of this isn't the right motion to be doing. There's a weird sense of fandom that kind of accompanies those belief systems in a very America specific, Christian specific way.
Yeah, the American, like white Christian nationalist movement. I do see what you're saying. There is a lot of, I mean, the Christians supporting Trump is very much I'm a fan, so I'm going to be blind to what he says and does because that does not match up with my fandom.
Yeah. I
That's like my
yeah, and
last place team, but I'll argue that they're the best.
I think that they fall into it. I do think there is this weird other thing that isn't necessarily conservatism. It's just it's it's that weird like I don't know, Americana version of stuff that only like these are things that exist in other places. Patriotism exists in other places, and Christianity exists in other places, but like these things in America can get like they can get real hot dog on a coil at 7-Eleven kind of vibe to them.
That's a death dog.
Yeah. So like there's just something about it that's like only Americans are doing that. And that is when I think you get into American Christian fandom. So that's what I was wanting to talk about. And I think that without saying that I don't know that it is worse or better than religion or patriotism. It is weird to me. Like it's a weird.
The two things don't belong together. It brings out the worst of both things.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway. All right. So we've been going for almost an hour. Do you have anything else you want to say about?
I think we covered. I don't know if we got fan blindness as much as Alex would have liked, but we covered fandom pretty well.
Yeah. What about nipple blindness? Do you know what that
I'm
is?
I'm never blind to nipples.
I think it was from Ren and Stimpy. There was like some weird thing where I think it was Buttered Toast Man's nipples would like pop off into your eyes, and then you'd be like, I have nipple blindness. It's a weird little like recess of my mind kind of
Mhm.
memory. I would love for somebody to tell me that I made that shit up and that's not real. That'd be
I think it'd be better if you didn't.
so. Anyway,
So
if
I was thinking though that if people who happen to be watching live right now, they should join us for the future live streams. There won't be one next week because I'm going to Niagara Falls. So don't look for us then. But we'll be back usually Tuesdays, usually 6:30. But
yeah,
that's on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, talkingaboutbigstuff.com. But check those channels and see what's scheduled because you never know when we move it around because of vacations, because we're going to have a guest, because the weather's a little iffy. You never know. But listen, if you're watching us on Facebook, hit thumbs up, let Facebook know you like us. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Why haven't you already? While you're there subscribing, ding, 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 ring the bell. And right now in the towel section down below, uh, tell us about any topics you might want us to cover in the comments. And you know what? If you want to be a guest, tell us you want to be a guest. Maybe we'll vet you. Maybe we won't, but maybe we'll vet you and let you be a guest. You never know. So if you're a video person, do those video type things. If you're audio, I don't want to talk to you.
if you're audio, I will absolutely talk to you. So if you're listening to this on any of our any podcast platform, uh, give us a like or a follow or whatever your platform allows. If you're on Apple, you can give us a review, and 5 stars are better for us. Obviously, they help the algorithm. You can say whatever shitty stuff you want in the comments of that review, as long as you give us 5 stars.
And it's
You could
about
say,
Mike.
well, you could say stuff about Matthew too, because I don't know that he would read it.
That's true.
uh,
Make
but
Mike feel good. Say bad things about me.
Matthew is so unfunny. You, go ahead and follow us there. Follow or subscribe, whatever it is. If you're on Apple, subscribing actually means that you're committing to $1 a month. But what that does get you is gets you these episodes 4 days early on Monday instead of Friday. And if you wanted to do even more monetary support, you can go to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. And we have the $1 feature there as well. We also have a $3 option, which gives you some less censored stuff. And then if you really want to support us for $10 a month, which still breaks down to like $2.50 an episode, you're going to get the wild shit that I decide to leave in. There is still Matthew pushes the limits, so there's nothing that's completely uncensored because Matthew just can't allow that to happen. But if we get enough subscribers, maybe we will go full balls to the wall there.
It's not the wall
And
you got to worry about.
no. So anyway, so that's what we would love for you to do to help support this show. And Matthew, you got anything else to say about
I just
topic?
want to say thank you to all of you who came by to listen to us talk about the big stuff. You should listen to everything we say. You should do everything we say. You should make your life revolve around us. I mean, if you were a fan, you would.
Yep. I love the sexy eyes that you did at the end there for that. The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.